Okay, everyone, we are now going to start the Emily Dickinson poems one at a time, and this one will be, again, they actually have numbers, and none of them have titles. This one's actually number 1129, but most of the titles, almost all the poems are really known as the first line of the poem ends up being the title. So this one's Tell All the Truth But Tell It Slant. And this is essentially how hard it can be for us to hear absolute reality, how hard it can be to process, how we often have to use story and metaphor, and one of the it's maybe human beings thought in story and narrative form before they ever did in, say, discursive, logical, reasons, arguments, right, or rhetoric. So here I'll read it, and then I'll just quickly go over it. This will be a fairly quick one. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight, the truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased with explanation kind, the truth was dazzled gradually, or every man be blind. Okay. And again, you notice there, the quick, sort of simple folk, almost children's folk tale-ish kind of rhyme scheme there, almost like a nursery rhyme, for a child. But again, tell all the truth, but tell it slant, right? And she's, she is picking these words for a reason, and to tell it slant. Sometimes, first of all, several reasons actually for that. One is, again, sometimes if it's not a truth you're used to hearing, the Christians, literally murdered their own God, right? They burned. Some of the great scientists that are the discoverers in the world have been have been burned at the stake, and Galileo, and so there's that aspect of it. Also, tell all the truth but tell it slant. It's also more memorable when something is in a sort of an abound narrative. I think it's probably why evolutionarily when we started telling stories in the first place, as that's the way we've evolved to convey information, and that's why it sort of we remember it so much better. And let's see, success and circuit lies. That second line is both lies, meaning success and circuit, meaning not going directly at the thing. That's where your success will be. It also can be read as circuitous lies, right? Or how we really get to the truth. And again, metaphorical truths often way more powerful than literal truths. Biblical stories, mythical stories, these things may not be, maybe Christ didn't really rise, in 3 days from the dead, and maybe God didn't really create the earth. All these, stories, or if you take the Cain and Abel story right from the Bible, that may not be literally true. However, you can look at that as a sort of a compression, right, of all the madness and violence and war and all human strife is somehow contained, in this chrysalis form, in that story, which is really kind of amazing, which is why we're still reading and telling that story all these thousands of years later. And the other reason, by the way, to revisit that first line, tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Would be that once you say a thing, it just loses. Language decays with use, right? Which is why good writing instructors will tell you to avoid cliches, right? And once you say a thing, and then you say a thing, it should be this sort of a sound symbol, right? That's fastened directly to the thing or experience. But it's not exactly the thing or experience, but it can come close to being those first few times. The more it's said, the more it gets removed, the more it just sort of wears off on the ears, kind of like a song you've listened to a million times, and it's just not fresh anymore, and you can't hear it with fresh ears, and it just doesn't move you the way it had moved you those first few times you moved. That's another reason why to tell it Slant, to come up with new ways of saying the same thing, and which is why there's been several books about storytelling over the years, right? Everything from 7, so I've seen 21, whatever the number is. It's not that many. It's less than 50. How many stories have actually exist in human history, and we just keep retelling them over and over and over again. The Harry Potter is often like that snake in the basement. A lot of you remember that. It was sort of the snake, the Medusa, the head of snakes that turned men into stone. From Greek mythology. There's a lot of J.K. Rowling was a mythologist. That's what she studied in college, and she's retelling a lot of that and kind of combining it in a new way and reconfiguring it, and what was a fairly original way as far as that kid's school for wizardry, right? Which has been so beloved by so many kids, especially it seems like the awkward kids, right? For I guess decades now. The True Superb Surprise. And again, when we do hear that thing, that truth for that first time we're hearing it, it does kind of like ding, it really, that proverbial light bulb or something going off in our above our heads, right? There's a lot of truth to that. There is something. It feels like we already knew that somehow, but now we're being reminded of it. And that is kind of what truth felt. And again, we have to have it said to us in a way that we suddenly we hear it, because we do go numb and sort of and almost deaf to these things after a while. As lightning to the children ease, with explanation kind. And again, it's sort of like I almost think more of thunder than lightning in this, right? Where a lot of grandmothers, told their scared grandchildren, but that's just God bowling, in the sky or something, right? Or rain is God crying, and all these sorts of things. There's all kinds of things, and we can't explain, just like we have to come up with storks that deliver children, for little kids. They're not, if you're you can't really explain to your 4 or 5-year-old, the mechanics of human sex and how they really, came to be, right? So there are things, and bigger kids, and adults sometimes need these things, in a similar way, oftentimes need, especially new things, sort of couched in similar ways too. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. And again, that's just sort of a repeat of what she's already been, of all the themes we've already talked about and what she's already saying. And again, dazzle gradually, gently, and that is the way for us to share knowledge and to pass things down from generation to generation and culture to culture. All right, so that's Tell the Truth, but Tell It Slants. Nice quick one. We'll be back soon with the next one.